Well, I grew up in California, in outside of Lodi, where I actually met my business partner, or he met me because I had just come into the world and his mom was working at my house and everyone was excited about me coming there and they came and he came and met me when he was probably two and I was a newborn. So I've known him that long. And that was in the Delta of California, which is just a couple of hours inland from San Francisco. And grew up there. My dad owned the marina. And so I was raised by an entrepreneur. And he actually worked on his claim to fame was working at One Wall Street. And before he became an entrepreneur, he had sort of a splitting of ways with the firm that he was with and bought a marina and flew out from New York and basically lived in the sticks and raised up this marina that he ended up selling several years later. And it was really its own community. And that's where I met my business partner. And growing up there, I got my work permit when I was 14 and a half, and I was anxious to go work. And my first job was a dishwasher. And from that point, I always felt like an owner. I worked like an owner. I can remember it to this day, being a dishwasher, and I worked as if I owned the marina because my father did, but it came with that certain level of responsibility that everything ultimately fell on you. And working my way up through the corporate world, that never left me. And so I grew up under an entrepreneur and who came from Wall Street, and my first three words were mother, father, and discounted present value of future cash flows. And that was how I was raised. And I was fortunate that my father took me around the world and we traveled during the off season. It was a very seasonal business. We would travel and I got to see lots of parts of the world, and everything that I saw in our travels was through an eye of economics. We always talked about demographics. We talked about what was going on in the local commerce wherever we were at and what was influencing the people and why people were where they were and what was going on. So my upbringing was very much about traveling and seeing the world and living underneath an entrepreneur who had left a high-paying job in New York, came out basically into the sticks at this marina and then raised it up. And through that, I watched how you can grow and develop. Basically, it was a real estate play and making the most out of this area that was a distribution center for some Chicago entrepreneurs who it was called Terminus, and they ended up as Terminus was because where the railroad ended, and that was where they got the fruit back to Chicago, where they had created a market, and this place was built there for providing produce to Chicago. And he built it into a resort, basically. And they had storage, boat storage, dry storage, wet storage, fuel dock. And I worked there starting at 14 and a half. And that was the beginning of my career as a dishwasher. And it was wonderful. It was the best place to start.